everyone, welcome again to Contact Lost, the Polish competitive Warhammer 40k podcast about the Polish and international scene. Today, we continue with the series of episodes summing up the WTC, the World Team Championships. If you haven't seen the first episode where I spoke to the representation of the reigning champions of the world, Australia, by all means, go and check that first because it's a very nice introduction to the whole sort of a series. Today we continue with the second episode, and I think my guest will be very interesting for you for many reasons. Again, if you've seen the previous episode and you've heard Liam, who won the single War Master event with his Necrons list, Liam mentioned my today's guest. And he spoke of him only in superlatives. He mentioned that he has heard that this is our young Polish prodigy, a great talent, the wunderkind of the Polish national team. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Polish Necron player to the WTC, Gyto. Welcome, dude.
Oh, welcome. Hello, everyone.
Hi, thanks for agreeing to join us. I think we were in for a great ride and for a very interesting episode. So yeah, listen, you appeared on the Polish podcast in your preparation to the WTC. You spoke about your army. You spoke about your concept of the army. So I think let's start with this. Let's start with your preparation for the tournament and how you actually got on the national team. How did that go? How the hell did Gyto, a new player on the Polish scene, or a fairly new player on the Polish scene, get included in the national team?
Okay, so my story is actually pretty simple. When the COVID hit and I got a lot of more time because I was studying and I didn't need to attend any lessons in real life. I could do it from home. I got much more time, and at the same time I couldn't go and play with my friends in my favorite Polish bar, Kosteczka in Poznań. If someone comes to Poland and wants to get really nice place to play Warhammer in Poznań, Kosteczka, great place. And I couldn't go there because COVID. And I still wanted to play 40k. I really like the playing aspect of it. I'm mediocre at modeling, but I really liked the feel of the game and a challenge to play someone else and outsmart him and just have a nice time doing that. And I joined, I downloaded, I buy TTS, downloaded it, and I was just trying to find someone to play against. And there was some people on Polish Discord that done that. And then the first TTS league started, and I was wondering, should I join it or should I not? And because I was wondering for so long, I actually was late to update my list and stuff.
To sign up.
Yeah. But I was still I still could play, but I get just penalties for being late. And without penalties, I actually won that TTS league.
Wow, your first league, and already a victory.
But Necrons back then were really strong. That was the start of the 9th edition, and they were pretty top tier army in my opinion. And after that I play a lot of TTS because I had a lot of free time and I really liked to do it. And after some time, Typhus started to giving me opponents. So, I have he asked me, okay, so I have this guy, Duda, maybe you can play him. And I was like, okay, I played him, and I need to say it. I love Duda, but the first game we played, I won 20-0, and I was just some random.
Tifus must have seen some potential in you if he paired you against him
Yeah.
so early.
And then he like said, okay, play against Vladi. I lost against Vladi my first game, but the second game I think I won or I like draw. So I was getting the big names down. And at some point when the international like sparring matches start up, I was really excited to participate in them, and I think I got a decent scores. I play only Necrons during all that time. Like for those 2.5 years, I was playing almost exclusive Necrons. Like for a very short time, I was playing Admech. For a very short time, I was playing Renegade Knights. Then for a very short time, I was playing Imperial Knights. But all of the games with those armies combined were like less than I played with Necrons.
Yeah, like a fraction of your
like in a week. Like in a week, I play more. I have a week 100% that at which I played more games with Necrons than I played with any other faction in the game.
Wow. Okay.
Like
so you're dedicated to your single faction.
Yes,
and that's it.
yes. And at some point, I was very worried because Necrons were dropping down and they were worse and worse. And I was thinking they're not gonna make a cut to top 8, and I will not get selected because basically only army I played was Necrons, and all of other armies were just like very, very, very short periods of time I've played them, and I was not as consistent with them as with Necrons.
Yeah, inexperienced.
Yeah, and even though Necrons were not selected for our top 8, I still make a place in our top 8. I was selected to be a Team Poland member and go to WTC and represent Poland, even though I was not gonna play Necrons. Like that was the idea. Like we really wanted the Necrons as a team. I think like Tifus really tried to like find a place for Necrons in the team, but there was none. And I was playing some Imperial Knights, and then the Nephilim happen, and then the point drops happen, and Necrons, in my opinion, skyrocket up from like, I don't know, 9th, 10th army for the team to like top 1.
Yeah.
And I was so happy. And like, if you see some messages on the Discord, I mean, that day I was like staying up way too long before my job and stuff. Like I was staying way too late and like just being happy that I can play my army. It's like this only army that I collected, only army that I played, and it's only army like I very dedicated to it. And if I go to the WTC and even get like very, very high place, but I didn't play Necrons, I would like feel not complete.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that was your way to the national team.
Yes,
and that's how it happened. So now you got to the national team. I know that initially you got assigned Renegade Knights to play, but then as you just said, Necrons became a thing, so you got your beloved army back. What did your final weeks before the WTC look like? Was it an intensive time, or when you heard that you're playing Necrons and you had so much experience, in your pocket, so to say, you could sit and relax and not focus on this very much because you knew your army through and through? What were the last weeks?
No, it was not like this. The Necrons that I played before had a really different role in the team. Like Necrons from before was basically a cog block army. Like you just throw it at something that's dangerous and you get like 9. Or like if you're really good and somewhat lucky, you get like 11. And it was amazing. And but building army to do that is very different to be building an army that can make a high wins.
That's a hitter, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Necrons built like a defender is a little bit waste. Like the potential of this army is a little bit wasted. So Like before, when I was playing these lists that were defenders, Necrons, I got a lot of raids for some time. I got a lot of scarabs. Like, I think you're starting to see what list I'm referring to.
Yeah, I
so,
remember because we played that in one of the TTS leagues, and I remember, your army composition, your very meticulous placement on the table, and so on and so on. The time it took to, to properly place everything because you were such a careful, meritorical player and so on. So I can see how that changed with Nephilim coming out.
Yeah, and then I need to build an army that's a hitter. And I go through some iterations. Like the first idea was Silent King, 3 blobs of shooty destroyers. And it was actually pretty good. But during the games, I start to see that there's something missing. And that the part that was missing was some really, really nasty melee units to really take advantage of Silent King being such a powerhouse buffing unit and such a powerhouse actually like everything. Like it's way too good for how it costs, how many it costs. And so I built something different than I build usually. I still stick to having a lot of shooting because that was a trend that I have all the time I was playing Necrons. I really think that Necrons benefit from having a lot of shooting, a lot, mainly because if you send some cheap, shitty units with OPSEC on objectives, and your opponent needs to like go out and start to kill them because otherwise he don't gonna score his primary or like secondaries and stuff. It's way easier to just shoot that stuff that come out and kill your shitty units. And I think that's the efficient way to play Necrons. And like it's one of the 2 philosophies you can have. And I really like to have a lot of shooting my Necrons, and I think my list reflected that. I don't think there was a second list on WTC that have as much shooting as my list had.
Yeah, so that's actually let's stick to that topic for a moment, because when I listen to the Polish podcast of the Polish national team, which I strongly recommend to anyone who knows Polish, basically, but it's a very informative podcast, and I'm sure that there are a lot of players in the world, like in the States maybe, that are of Polish or descent or something, and they might know Polish. I strongly recommend that you check out Team Poland 40K Facebook page and YouTube channel, because there is a lot of good stuff over there. But still, I listened to that podcast, and in that episode, you said that you are pretty confident with your list, and your list is very unique in comparison to other lists because, for example, you didn't bring any Catans or the usual stuff that you see in the list. Can you delve a little bit deeper into that? Why haven't you opted for some other unit that other national teams have considered powerhouses?
Okay, so I played Necrons for a very long time, and I tried Catans so many times. And in my opinion, they are too expensive for what they do on the table. Like it's really hard to have a Citan pay off himself in like almost any game. Like you really need to roll some serious dice and like have a lot of luck with Citan to have them pay off like their point value. And at the same time, they don't really play into tempo and like idea of Necron list that I was building, because Necron list is really good at stopping your opponents because of the Obsec Dynasty and pregame move. It's really good at stopping your opponent from scoring, and it's really good at having like it's not maybe this version, but the previous version that used a lot of scarabs, a lot of raids, are really good at pushing like one side of the table, like winning, like giving your opponent a defeat in detail, like just closing them in their deployment zones. And Cetans don't do that. Like they don't have OPSEC, they are not fast, like they are actually one of the slowest units in the army, because they move 8 with fly, okay, but if they advance, they do nothing.
Right.
They they are monsters. They don't go through the walls when they charge, so they need to go around the walls. So they are really, really slow, and I don't like slow army. Like my Necrons lists are all about the speed. I mean, they were before. Now the list that I took on the WTC was a little bit slower, a little bit more. I don't know how to call it, but it was not as fast, but it was much more heavy hitting than my usual list. But that's because the Nephilim happen and the like Silent King become much more viable, and you didn't really need as much points put in your scoring units because you're gonna have such a easy secondary that you're gonna do it anyway, and you could put more points into just big smashy units that can take some hit and can hit your opponent back. And you don't need as much speed for that.
Okay. Right. So that was slightly different to your normal style, but you know the army right now, the state of the game right now allows that play style, so to say. Okay. So so how did you spend your time in the last weeks before WTC when your opponent's lists were reviewed? I mean, again, was it like extensive practicing? Did you did you practice against every sort of army archetype that you could think of, or were you just focusing? You're going to be a hitter, so you need to, I don't know, you need to be able to fight with just the strongest armies. Did you play any mirror games, for example? Because as we will find out soon, that probably was a helpful thing. So what was the preparation like when once you found out what your opponents are bringing?
Okay, so first things first. We have, like when we see the list as a team, we have some unclear matchups that we need to play to make it clear, like if Necrons can win against Renegade Knights, or will Renegade Knights smash Blood Angels and stuff. Like we have just some unclear matchups that we need to test, and we done that first. After that, I was trying to show my team how the different Necrons lists that they might face will behave. So I played quite a lot of games, not playing my Necron list, but playing someone else Necron list. So we can have the worst case scenario that your opponent is very, very, how it's called, like it's a good opponent. Like if you give Necrons to someone who never played Necrons and play a test game against him, he might not perform as well as someone who played Necrons and have experience playing them would. And I was playing in that role a lot, just showing my teammates how to, like, what Necrons can do. And I played some, not that much, but I played some test games that I was not sure like how my list would do against some other lists. Just to clear it and to prepare myself for the games. And I always was playing from the worst case scenario. So if I wanted to go first, I would go second, like automatically. We deploy, I just told my opponent, okay, you go first. And I play a lot of games that were very difficult because like everything was set against me, and like I think whole of our team was not playing the easy matchups, and like we almost no one role to go first. Like we decide what's worse for our player, and play from that, and like try to see like how far can you go and still win. Yeah, so I played a lot of games like that, and also I discussed a lot with some of the other peoples that like play army that could give me problems. So for example, when we like, I can talk about this now. I couldn't before the WTC, but now I can. Like my list had some bad matchups. I wouldn't say that any well done Necron list would have a big loss because their secondaries are just too good and it play missions too well. But I have some pairings that if I get them, might not get as good of a score as like on the others. So that was Imperial Knights, that was Renegade Knights. That pretty fast I find out that my list without Titans, with a lot of shooting, with some really nice toolkit to deal with knights, could play actually the Renegade Knights. And before that I was really skeptical about playing them, but after I played some test games I was like, okay, it's not an easy matchup, but I can manage it. And we also try to play some of the more unusual lists to get like hand of it, like how they work. But we really, I think as a team, we skip Australia. And it's not because we were thinking they are gonna be bad or the lists are bad. Like the lists were a little bit different, but I think like Pumba said, like, man, those guys gonna get some points on this tournament, and he was right.
He was very right. Yeah,
he's very right. And we didn't play enough against Team Australia list because there was no time. Like we tried, like you have a choice. You can play 5 games, and you can play 5 games against lists that most countries will have. So for example, you spent one of those games, everyone needed to play, almost everyone I think, and like most of people needed to play against Bloody Rose Sisters. Like every single country almost had them. And
I think every single one.
Maybe, yeah, it might be right. Or like one didn't have it. And the lists were very similar. So if you play a game against that, for example, you take a list of Team England and play against their sisters. If you get USA sisters, they are so similar, like you're gonna have a very well-known pairing, and you can make a really good estimation against that. And some of the more unusual lists we just skipped because there was not time to test all of it. And
it makes sense.
And you know, the Team Australia had a lot of those really weird lists there.
Yeah.
So it comes back to bite us in the ass.
Yeah, they pride themselves on that. So again, Liam mentioned that in the last episode that they usually create lists that do not stick to the usual archetype, and they want to catch their opponents off guard by that. And I think it only shows that they succeeded.
Yeah, and like big shout out for them to doing that. It's really, 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 like we were thinking that in this edition and like because of how easy it is to get an information on what works and what's not, and what other like countries would probably bring, like the meta builds pop up really quickly. And if you look at the mathematics on some of those builds, like it's just looks like the perfect list. And there's not much to change. Like we as a team had some lists that were a little bit different than the usual list. Like for example, Duda's Renegade Knights, or I don't know who's have a weird list too. Like our Imperial Knights were a little bit different because we got some Moriaxes, we got Noble Combatants. Like we had some stuff that was not usual. But overall, I think our team composition was pretty like basic, and we didn't have that many of a weird list. And I really appreciate, and like, I don't know what's the word for it, because I'm really excited to be here and I keep forgetting words in English.
Don't worry.
I'm very happy that the Australian lists that were very different work out. Like it's a good thing for the whole game as a whole. Like you can take something that doesn't look optimal and make it work. And
nice. So that's a question that I wanted to ask, at the end of the podcast, but we might as well just ask it now. So I read today, I think there was a survey on the Polish Discord about what people think about the game, and why do they participate in tournaments? Does the Polish ranking make sense to them? Blah blah blah. And there was this one answer that I found in that because the results were published on Facebook. And one of the answers, or well, actually many answers, were I quit playing this game because the meta is flat. So I played in 8th, I played earlier in previous editions, it was more interesting. Now the meta is flat, it's not appealing to me. Has your view or our national team's view, because you had, you spoke to the guys from the national team, has that view changed for you guys after this tournament, that it's not flat and actually, even an underdog or a list that doesn't seem to be the most meta list can win the tournament, or was it just an accident at work?
So we going to WTC, we're thinking like the unusual list will not work, or at least not work as well as they did. And after the WTC, I think I don't want to speak for the guys, but I think like most of the guys will agree that you can build something that is a little bit different and it's still gonna work. But some core of an army will not change very much. And
Or
like
at
an
least
idea,
shouldn't, yeah.
and the meta have some like 100%. There are some lists that are not yet discovered that can be really good, but it's harder than in previous editions to have something weird to work. Like that's my idea on it.
Okay, all right, understood. So listen, first of all, we're going to go into the topic of games now. So we are going to go over your games. Some for a longer time, some for a shorter time, because some games went faster, some lasted longer, some are more memorable. To our listeners, guys, check out the comment section for this video or any video from this series to get a link to the list from the tournament, and you can find out a list of a particular player just by Control-Fing and looking for the name of the player or the nickname or the army. So Gyto's list will also be there, and some other lists. So yeah, Gyto, let's jump to the games that you've played and the matchups that you've played. The first game that you went into, that was I think against Belgium, right? So
Yes.
Can you tell us something about that? Who did you get paired against? Was that something that you wanted? And then how did the game go?
Okay, so I get paired against Renegade Knights, and it was played by Tom and Triani. So the tournament organizer.
Who's that? Yeah, who's that?
And I didn't knew him.
Okay.
And like turn 3 or 4, I just realized who I'm playing. Like before that, I didn't knew the guy. Like
so the guy the guys didn't tell you.
No. And like he was really nice. We have really nice attitude on the table. We have really like nice talks. It was a great game that I was winning, but I gone first, and I really wanted to go first against Renegade Knights because it helps a lot. He might have deployed a little bit more defensive than he should, and because of that, I didn't really need to take any risks. I just play my game, play my secondaries, and just outscore him, playing very defensively. Like I think turn 4. Like I was just I was sending some units to take objectives from him. Like I was shooting my destroyers on like specific targets to don't let him score too much of his primary, to block some of his secondaries. And I was playing very, very slow, and I was not pushing it because I was asking Danny and Misha, should I risk it? And they said just no, it's okay. Like, by the way, big shout out to Danny and Misha. They did amazing job as a coaches. If they were not there, I think we will never get never get second place. Like if they were not there, no way. And overall, going to the WTC without coaches, and I think 2 coaches is actually not enough if you want to have some media coverage. You need more. So I hope next year we're gonna get some more people doing that. And But going back to the game, I played very defensively. I was hoping to get a small win. I didn't really wanted to push it. I could do it, but if the rolls go really not my way, I could have got a worse score. And like I remember, like turn 4 or like turn 3, I think it was turn 4. I was decided like, okay, I got all of my secondaries points. I got all of my primary. It will be really difficult to stop my opponent from scoring primary because he positioned his knights like he had like 3 like big knight and 2 small knights on only objective that I could easily reach. Other 2 objectives he was holding I could only reach with some of my shooting, and shooting knights with destroyers, like mathematically it should work, but like 5+ rerolling, then 5+ or 4+ invuln, and after that you get d3 damage. Like you can kill 2 knights, you can do 6 wounds on one of them.
Yeah, it could go either way.
Yeah, it's not as stable as I would like that to be. So I decided like, fuck it, I don't need to overextend anymore. I just took my army and just marched backwards towards my deployment. Yeah, and that game ended 14-6 for me.
Yeah, correct. That did the job.
Yeah, and it was like turn 3, after the turn 3, turn 4, like I was like, I don't need to give no prisoners to my opponent. I probably will not stop, like I might take 4 victory points from him, but by doing so I would risk a lot of more of my victory points doing that. So it's just like, oh fuck it, I just go home. And we're having such a nice laugh about me just advancing my whole army. Yeah, retreating from the battlefield, like phase out, I'm going home. yeah.
So tell me,
the only thing that I pushed was Silent King, because I wanted to explode inside of his army, and Silent King didn't change anything in scoring. Like he could live, he could die, it doesn't matter. So I just rushed him just in case, and it was fun.
It was tactical still, nonetheless.
It was.
So tell me, I understand that you said even before we went into the games that Necron secondaries right now are something that are basically secondaries that score themselves.
Yes.
So did you play the same secondaries in every single game, or did you choose different ones?
First game, I fucked up because I took Bringing Down, and I should have just taken like the standard one, and I think Bringing Down replaces Treasuries of the Eons, so like Necron Domination. And if I took Treasuries of the Eons, I would do better a little bit. Like I could maybe get 15, maybe 16, but that was a mistake, and I realized that. And like after the game, I was thinking, okay, there was no point in the game that, like, if I kill a knight, I would probably score Treasuries of the Eons anyway. And even if I don't kill a knight, I can still use OPSEC, and like some of my units were big enough to just carpet the objective and have more models than one knight is counting for. And like picking Bringing Down was a bad idea. I should stick to the Necron secondaries because they're really good. I hope they're gonna get nerfed. It's just too easy. It's
coming from a Necron player, so it means a lot.
Yes, the person that's play only Necrons for like past 6.5 years that I'm in this hobby, I was playing only Necrons, and I think Necrons now are too good, and I preferred to play them like an underdog. Like I was so happy to get my 11-9. Like a really small win.
Hard-fought 11.
Yeah, hard-fought 11 against like Drukhari when they were really good and dominating. Like I was loving that. And now having the top meta army, I was having fun, but not that much as being underdog and fighting for every point.
Okay. So tell me this, because I forgot to ask about that before we went into the games. This is, and to everyone who's listening, this was your first WTC or ETC. Well, one was called WTC, but it was the first one. When you were going into that, did you have anything like, I don't know, stage fright or something like that? Were you scared? And then the first win against a very seasoned player, Tom Adriani, so a very experienced player, did that help against that stage fright, or were you already quite confident when you were entering the tournament?
Okay, so that was my second real life event abroad, and I attended some, like, I don't know how many, but I attended some team events in Poland. I attended one singles in Poland, and that was Heresy, Tree City Heresy. I love you guys. I love this event, and I'm so sad that I cannot go, but I think I need to get some relationship points first, because before I go to another tournament, I need to do that first.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I forgot. It was.
So did you have stage fright?
Yes. A little bit before the first game. And after that, it was a running joke in our team during the WTC. Like, after the first game, I was so hungry for more that I heard the Doom music play all the time. I was just there, and I was loving it. I didn't feel afraid. I was loving it. Like, I really like to compete. I really like how the 40K feels when you're competing on the very high level. And I was enjoying it all the time.
Yeah, the blood rush in your veins. Yes. And then the adrenaline. Yeah, I can completely understand.
I love that.
Okay, so with that blood rush and with the adrenaline pumping, you went on to face Denmark, I think. And against Denmark, you got paired against 1,000 Suns. So how did you feel before the game, and how did the game go?
Okay, so 1,000 Suns played correctly against my list that is lacking some mobility, and overall the 1,000 Suns army having pretty good defensive profiles and pretty good offensive profiles, especially how much mortal wounds they can deal. Is not as easy matchup for Necrons if your opponent plays it perfectly, and perfect in this case is playing very defensively and just not letting you get close to him and use all of your damage at once.
Potential, yeah.
Yeah, like just playing very defensively, getting any points they can get, and because of secondaries, they should lose, or at best case scenario, they should have a draw. But you can do it with 1,000 Suns list, and the list I was facing could do that. Like, the list have every single tool he needed to get a small loss or a draw if he gets really lucky, or I fucked up somewhere. And turn 1 and turn 2, I think, I don't remember if the big flip happened on turn 2 or turn 3. But basically, I got first. I just go out, score some points, lose some of my crappy units, but why not? I can get, let me not lie, 12 points turn 1 just by moving 2 units up the board, like 2 cheap units. So why not? I done that, and it also helps me screen some of his teleports.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I got some points. Now your turn. I was seeing that my opponent was looking for an angle to push, but because my units were up front and he couldn't teleport, he opted to wait one more turn. And I figure it out that if we're gonna play like this stalemate game, because I didn't have place because of how the board was looking. I didn't have any place. I can push mid board with my melee units and give some pressure into him. Like I couldn't really make a safe push and say checkmate. Now you need to do something, and you need to do something now, and you need to do something risky. I couldn't do it. Like if I push, he can just shoot from his maximal range, like put some spells into me, teleport back or double move back after he uses spells from his psychers, and I would not have anything to counter it when he does it. So I figured out if I want to get a better score, after like I think it was turn 3, because I have 2 turns of scoring, so I have like really good base of score I already have, and I could risk it a little bit. So I push my Silent King inside of his ranges, like he could, if he done it correctly, he could. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So if he done it correctly, he could get invulnerable save of my Silent King and shoot most of his list. Not all of it, but like a big chunk of his list at me. But by doing so, he would expose himself into my 2 blobs of destroyers. He will expose himself into some other like my mirror units. And I was like, okay, I already have some points, even if it goes badly, because like I make a gamble and he played perfectly and the dice gonna be on his side, no matter what, because of how good Necron secondaries are, I will not gonna lose it. Like I'm not gonna lose it no matter what. But I can go for a bigger score. So basically I put the Silent King in the best place I could find to make him come out as close as it's possible towards me. I also place him in the dense cover, so he has some difficulty killing him. And like I make a bait, I went and waited for him to
Catch it.
give a like response. And if he just plays safe and defensively and just ignore him, like Silent King's King move 9 inches, it's gonna take him ages if he don't have anything to charge and like slingshot towards my opponent. And he said he don't like the pressure that Silent King is doing, and I could see why, because you have a really big model in the middle of the table, but the real pressure was not there. Like if he wanted to ignore him, nothing bad would happen to him. But he took the bait. But he took the bait, and he throw everything into the Silent King. He used like very smartly move one of his psychers closer. He used the extend range on his spells and like overall use his list in such a way that he can stop my Silent King, like turn off his invuln and then shoot most of his lists at him. And he did it good. Like he didn't make any big mistakes doing that. But him doing that was a mistake. Like he should just waited and just play defensively more. And he overextended, tried to kill the king. I also like screened the king with some scarabs, so he cannot use his mortal wound potential into him as much as he could. And I just waited. He took the bait, and after that, I just took whole my army and just rush at him. I could shoot with both units of my destroyers. Silent King was still alive, like wounded, but still alive. He get into range of my Scorpex destroyers, the small unit, and into range of my Triarch Praetorians, which, by the way, I love this unit. I was very skeptical at first, but after I played some of it, it's great in the current meta. So basically, I shoot 2 blobs of destroyers and a Silent King on one of his this like Terminator's unit, and that unit was already missing like 1 or 2 Terminators because I shoot that unit before with Menhirs, and I just kill the whole unit like to the wound. Like I didn't have like the last dice damage I roll was the last guy that I killed, and that unit melted. Yeah. On the other flank,
yeah, go on. Sorry, go on.
And other flank, I use my melee units to charge his other unit. This unit took huge losses. Like there was only like 3 models left, so I kill his big hitters, and after that I just keep pushing him.
So it sounds like there was a lot of mind games in that game. A lot of like it was a lot about proper positioning and so on, and you executed that flawlessly. And the score reflects that, I think, because it was what, 19-1?
Yeah, 19-1. It would be less if my opponent didn't opt to smite Silent King that was inside of his Psyker's line, and I automatically explode the Silent King, and I roll really well, and I kill like 3 of his Psykers.
Oh my god! Yeah, so
with just explosion of Silent.
A cherry on top, basically.
yeah, basically.
Okay, so you mentioned the Praetorians. What is their role in your list?
Okay, so my Necron list, as I drop down the Wraiths, do not really had a very fast unit that can push your opponent. Like I didn't have a melee threat that can like get through the wall and like cover some distance and then charge your opponent. Also, second thing is my list with the 2 big destroyer blobs and like 9 Scorpex have really big footprint, and Praetorians was really only units except Scarabs and Tombblades, which are basically chaff units that could fit the middle floor of the ruins. So if I get a big ruin, I can use it as much as I could. Like I can put this big blob of Praetorians in the middle floor. I can put some Tombblades or Scarabs on the top floor, so I could use ruins better. I can also charge flyers with Praetorians because like Wraiths move like they have fly, but they don't have the keyword, so they cannot charge flyers.
Yeah.
And if you play, for example, Tau list, if you have 1 big ruin, you could put everything else except your chaff units, Silent King, 1 unit of destroyers and 1 unit of Praetorians into Deep Strike, like strategic reserves and so on. And if he uses this, like I'm talking about Tau build like Skark did his, so 2 planes, hammerheads, crises. So if the planes come to you and shoot your 1 unit of destroyers that is on the board, if you have Wraiths or Scorpex near it, they can't do anything they cannot deal damage to the planes. And Praetorians could. So if the planes come to me, I can either lose destroyers or like lose a lot of them, or I can lose Praetorians. But in both cases, I still have a unit on board, turn 1,
that can retaliate.
shoot. Yeah, that can retaliate. And that was another really important stuff why I took Praetorians, because I didn't play a single game against Tau, but if I played, I think it was very well. Like it was a good toolkit to have.
Yeah, definitely like a good deterrent, because even if the Tau player brings planes, he will think twice before he actually, flies them into your deployment or something like that.
Yeah, so, and I think no one else took Praetorians, and it could be even a surprise for someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a hidden gem in the codex. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so that was the game 2. Moving on to game 3, you played against the Inari, which is again another uncommon choice, I would say. So were you prepared for that? How did that game go?
Okay, so this game I went second, and like basically looking at his list, I knew it's gonna be I don't want to say easy, but like on the list building level, his list was a very bad matchup, had a very bad matchup into my list.
And that was Switzerland, by the way, right? Because I didn't say that.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. And I don't recall his name, but he was such a nice player on the table. Like overall, like all the players I faced on the WTC, I didn't have a single bad player, like bad manner or something. But he was especially trying. Like it was game 3. I was a little bit tired, and I could have made some mistakes. And while during deployment, I was like pre-measuring stuff and was telling him like, okay, I want to do this and this and this. And he said like, no. If you make some mistake, you just tell me, and we're gonna work it out. Like no worries, it's just a
like
game.
Gentlemen.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
like he's not here to get the first place. He's here with his friends and his team to have really good time. Like he was playing to win, but he was
not at all cost.
Yes, one of the things, and also like I think they didn't really prepare as much and as hard to try to get the top score. They tried to do best they could and have as much fun as they could. And that was, I think, the philosophy of that team from what he said. And we have really nice game. Like first things, his list had a really bad matchup into mine, and also I took the table and I took the worst table his list could get. Like the idea was I'm gonna get 20-0 and the rest of the team will do some scores, but we got easy 20 no matter what happens because I have the list, I have a good pairing, I have a good board. Just, like before the game started, it was already over, I think. Like there was, if I don't make any silly mistakes, there was, I think, no way he could get a win or even a close draw. He maybe could get 1 or 2 points here and there, but like it was not his game to win at all. Yeah, and
there are just games like that. And
of course, like it happens. Well, I had some games like this with my Necrons before they were really good, that some pairings you just cannot win if your opponent is like competent and know what is doing. Yeah. And we had just a really nice game. We had a lot of really nice talks about the hobby and stuff, and it was a really nice last game for this very tiring like first day of playing, because we got 3 games and it was really chill out game. We have our nice talk. It was just great.
Awesome. So so I heard that the first day was very demanding.
Yeah.
But then let's look at day 2, because day 2 is when the things start getting serious. I think that you hit the first game. You were going into the second day knowing that you will be playing one of our biggest opponents ever, so Germany. And I saw when the pairings were like posted on the Facebook page with a picture of the entire team doing the pairings. There was a picture with Skark not wearing his shoes, and somebody commented, "Ooh, Skark is not wearing his shoes. Things are, shit hit the fan."
Yeah, so, that's basically it.
So how did it go against Germany, and what was your pairing?
I was playing a Tyrannus player that have very different Tyrannus list than everyone else in the tournament. He had a Mortal Wound spam with a lot of Xenotropes. Like he had 3 units of Xenotropes, 3 units of Neurotropes, 2 Harpies, some Biowars. Like basically all the Mortal Wound spam you can get in this army. And also everything had 4-up Transhuman and had Invon for the most part.
Yeah.
And I played that was one of the lists that were not standard that I played before. And I played before like Mihu, one of the guys that didn't make into like top 8 and didn't go as a coach, but was helping us all the time when we were preparing. And I play against him playing this list. I won second because, of course, we play like the worst case scenario. And I won like 19-1. So
Wow.
that was one of the lists that I was very confident that I know how to play against, and no matter what happens, I gonna get a win. If I get first turn or if I get some lucky dice rolls, I can stomp it even more.
Right.
So and I didn't. And when I was deploying, I don't remember the name because I don't remember name of people I work with even in the same room, and I'm really bad at remembering names. But this guy I played, I know he's on the podcast of Team Germany, and he was really nice guy. We had a very nice gentleman play game, and yeah, I think he was a little bit surprised when I get first turn, and I just took whole of my army and just rush it at him. Like two blobs of destroyers. I turn one, I get to turn one, I teleport one of the blob of destroyers in range to shoot his harpy. The second one could get some shots on the harpy, like two of the little guys could shoot, and like all of my men here's and all of my heavy destroyers could shoot at one of the harpies. Like, yeah, and he didn't get the 5+ invuln on his army because like after like we have spoke, he was hoping I gonna rush him with my destroyers to try to kill the harpies, but he was not expecting that every single unit in my army except those two units that gonna shoot gonna advance and just get as close as I can. Like, yeah, like the idea was I tried to do as much damage with my two blobs of destroyers to the harpies. Even if I didn't kill both, I wanted one of them at least bracketed, and like I was really hoping to kill one of them. And after that, he would have one turn to retaliate, and next turn, all of my army is in the charge range, up close and personal, like close to his objectives. I just start charging everything, and it worked out. Like the plan was, I would say, decent, and the rolls didn't make any problems like executing it.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
looking at the list right now. That's Michael Kemeke, I think, from what I
yeah,
see, and he didn't even have anything to fight back. Like if you got into charging range, it seems like there was nothing that could put up a fight because
yeah,
most of the things were just casters or chaff units. So
yeah. Yes, exactly. Like the idea was if I get into melee range, into like hand-to-hand combat all across the board, I think like there was not a single unit that could punch me back harder than if I was like 18 inches away and he was smiting me. And I gonna hit him much harder if I get that close. And I also use all of my units to like my cheap straff units to screen out as much mortal wounds as I could. I even used some plasma sights to catch some of his smites. And that was basically it. Like turn 2, I charge everything. Even my shooty destroyer started to make charges, and just to take him off the objective, deal some damage. Like I have a protocol to fall back and shoot all game, so no matter what, I can still shoot something. Yeah, and that was the story. Like the whole game, he was scrambling for points. He make a really good job. Like it's I think it's a success that after I get first turn, I got some decent rolls on my destroyers that I killed both harpies. He gets 3 points. I think it's the most he could get, and he done it.
Yeah. So 17-3 was the final score.
Yes.
So yeah, that's very well played. I think you managed to basically crunch his playstyle, what his list can do, and you counteracted, and it was a good choice. Fantastic. So that was a big thing. Winning against Germany is always big. It's always something that we both enjoy in particular. And from there on, you moved to France, right? Right. And you got paired, from what I see, where are you? You got paired against the Renegade Knights.
Yes.
Okay. Again, was that something that you wanted? Did you want to? I mean, did you feel you have the potential to destroy them, or was it an unfavorable pairing?
Okay, so Imperial Knights and Renegade Knights are not as good as a pairing for Necrons as some other armies. But if I would want to choose one of those two, I would definitely pick Renegades because they don't have -1 damage in shooting. They got less. They don't have influence in melee, so I can deal with that. And again, I got lucky. I get first turn, and I was knowing if I get first turn on the table we're playing, I can just close him off. Like even if I don't get turn 1 and he go first, I will have some problems. I would probably win it, but there is no chance for me to getting like very, very, very big win. I would just get a small win and that would be okay, I think. But I went first and just use one of my 5-man Tombblade unit to close one of his flanks. I used 3 scarabs because there was a really narrow place he could go through to use close other like corridor he could use to get his knights on the board. And I think it's hard to call it a mistake. I think it was more of a gamble. He deployed 2 of his knights, small knights, very close to the, like he was deploying them on the edge of his deployment, and we were playing the quarters missions, on which if he done that, and if I'm standing on my deployment edge, I got like 2-inch charge that I cannot fail if I do it. I didn't do it because I wanted, if I don't go first, to hide my destroyers, Scorpion destroyers. So I had a little bit longer charge. I have like 5-inch or a 6-inch. I don't remember charge to make. But if I make it, my buffed up unit of Scorpion destroyer is gonna charge 2 of his knights, and that Scorpion destroyer unit with his buffs, like with the buffs on, even if he use -1 damage, have a pretty good chance of killing both of them. I didn't manage to kill both. I killed one. Second was on 2 wounds left, and when he retaliated, he didn't kill much. So yeah, he basically got close in his deployment zone, and throughout the game, he tried really hard to get on the board, but I was just doing everything I can. Like even at one point, I was like, okay, I can score. Like I could have scored 12 on primary, but was like, no, I prefer to stop him from getting on the board. Just stop him with the small units.
Move block him.
Move block him as much as I can. Shoot at him and kill his shooting first, because his melee units will not retaliate on my shooting destroyers. So I can just keep killing his knights and he cannot do much about it if I move block him. And every turn, push one of my melee units on some of his knights that are closest and the biggest threat to me. And I just did that all game long. Yeah,
a very high win.
Yeah, and I had like one lucky point when one of his knights was on 8 wounds, and that could have give him like 18-2. And I was like joking about that I will get lucky on this roll. And the knight was on 8 wounds. I hit my heavy destroyer. I wounded my heavy destroyer. He failed his save. He make a reroll. He failed his save. And I rolled 9 from hand, first roll. Yeah, and that cemented the score. Like, and actually, if you would look at the scoring sheet, I won exactly. I got exactly as many points as I needed to get 20-0.
Yeah,
like
and
yeah, if I
that
get
was the final score.
Yeah, basically. And big shout out to Miyashi. I don't remember. Like I kind of knew his nickname. He was a really great guy. Like I have a moment when it was a weird situation, but I was charging his knight on 1 wound with my melee destroyers on like 11-inch charge. And I said, okay, I roll my, I gonna roll the charge distance, and I roll 11. But there, I should have first taken dread test to see if I will have my charge halved. And I rolled, and the first roll I make was 11. So if that's a charge roll, I make it. If that's a dread test, I fail it because Necrons have leadership 10, and he like retracts by 1, so I have leadership 9. Basically, if I roll 11, I'm not gonna make the charge. And I declared that I'm making a charge move, and he said, and after I roll it, I realized what happened, and like looked at him, and he said, "No worries, you declared what you are doing. The gentleman play, how we should resolve that. Now you roll the dread test," and I pass it. And I think that shows like very, very high level or gentleman play from him.
Yeah, but it also shows the importance of communicating your intent during the game.
Yeah.
Like if you say or tell your opponent openly what you're doing, and and he agrees, and you are both in the clear about it, then even if something like that happens, it's very easy to just take a step back and maybe do a roll that you've missed or something else. So it's important to remember to just do that.
Yeah, and
so that was
big shout out, like excellent player. He couldn't do much more. Like it was just me going first and have really good rolls, and he was really a gentleman at the table, and I remember the game very well.
Yep. So Moyashi, we salute you. Right. So that was the end of day 2. Very good scores. Very good day. I think adrenaline pumping even more because at that stage, I think you all realized that you will be playing Team America. So again, for you as a player new to the national team, as a player who knew who Team America is because they are everywhere on the internet, was that again something that you had an issue with, or did you feel very confident going into that matchup?
Yeah, I don't really follow Art of War that much. I knew the guys, but I don't knew which one of them is which, and that maybe helped me to don't feel intimidated. But them, I don't think I feel intimidated before the game. I think I was like, okay, another game, do music, we need to do it. And I think it was not an issue. And the opponent I played was really nice. Another great example of gentleman play. And after the first like 1 or 2 turns, when we both see that it's not gonna be one of those unnice games. Like it's like we knew it's gonna be a nice game, and we both are trying to like shout out our intent. We don't try to
hide anything.
Yeah, hide anything. Like we're very clear about what we are doing, what we are planning. And after I saw that it's one of those games that is played on very high gentleman play level, I was like, the rest of my stress just blew away, and I was just confident doing what I could to get as high score as I could.
Okay, so you were playing Brandon Grant, I think. So this is a celebrity.
Player.
Yeah, that is a celebrity in the States, and a very well-known player, a very analytical player, and a very meticulous player, so like yourself. But I guess Necrons into Sisters of Battle is something favorable for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And also, if you get a bad pairing, one of the things you could do is gamble and play a little bit more risky And as you said, he's very meticulous player, and overall, like, his game plan was good. He played very safe. He didn't took any chances. But if you get a bad matchup, that I think sisters into my Necrons especially are, you're gonna lose it if you play like this. And he did play very safe. Like, he didn't make any like big mistakes. Like, of course, everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes every game. But he didn't do anything wrong. It's just that my army have upper hand in this matchup. That's like one of the things. And the second thing is, like, if I would have to make one like shout out what his mistake was in this game that could have give him a fighting chance in this matchup, is he deployed very, very, very defensively. And I get first turn, and it was okay. Because if I go first and he deployed very defensively, he didn't lose anything important the first turn. Me going first. But if I don't go first and he go first and he deployed really defensively, it would actually be bad for him. Yeah, okay. Like if there was one mistake made, I think he deployed too defensively and like didn't really try to cut deep into my army, and every like angle he could take, I think I just like defended pretty well. Like anticipated that play like more than 24 inches from most of his army, so he don't really like he cannot declare a charge even if he have 2 6s on his hand.
Yeah.
And I just like position myself, play it out slowly. I get 15-5. I think it's a decent score. Like, he did a really good job turn 4 and turn 5 to make sure he gonna get these 5 points, because it was not so clear. There was a way, if he didn't commit enough and in a very specific way, he wouldn't get that 5 points. But he did. He managed to get that 5 points, and I think it's a good score from this table, from this matchup, and like overall, like how Necrons are good at this point and how sisters don't have as good of a matchup into them.
Yeah. So you said at the beginning that he might have risked more, and it's probably easy to say now from the perspective of like being after the tournament and knowing, but at that very moment, in that point in time, that was his judgment call. And again, he's a very experienced player, so I understand that he probably didn't want to risk it in a game with such high stakes, because we're talking about if you win, you go closer towards the final. If you don't, well, then you don't. And yeah,
I agree. Like, it's easy to judge after the game. I agree 100%. Like, I don't hold it against him. I just said, like, if there was one thing that I would change in his game, that would be that.
Yeah,
but
maybe
it's really
go on.
But it's actually really hard to do in team setting. It's even harder to do in singles. Like, in singles, you can risk it. It's okay. If in team tournament, it's you need to really be confident doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And the payoff, if you risk, the payoff might seem very tempting, but sometimes it's just too difficult of a decision.
Yeah, like in this particular case, he make a good call, because I went first, and like he would get trashed if that happened and him deploy aggressively. But I think he didn't give himself a chance to like get a decent score because of that.
Okay. So again, a massive victory for us, a very important victory. I think the spirits were extremely high just because it was Team America. So a team that is a fierce opponent always at any tournament, at any game. So that was fantastic, and then that cemented your position and opened up the way to the final. The final that you played against the guest of my previous episode. Again, guys, if you haven't seen it, I strongly encourage you to watch it because it's really fun with Liam and Denise. But Gyto, your account of the game, you played a mirror game. So were you prepared for that? You said you were not prepared for that list because you probably didn't test against Australians' list. But were you prepared to play a mirror game? And then tell us all how it went.
Okay, so before the tournament, after the list were released, I have like 1 or 2 games of mirror, and I have them against Citans, so really completely different list. But as I said before, I play very similar list back in the day, like 1 year ago. I had like basically the core of the list was the same. I got 27 scarabs, 15 raids, and back then I didn't use Silent King because Silent King, like nothing in the army had core, so he didn't work.
He didn't play.
Yeah, he didn't play. But I play very similar list, and I have a very good idea how this list is gonna work. And going into this matchup, we were playing on quarters again, so very close. We have very like short distance to our deployments. And if he deployed aggressively and get the first, like if he deployed aggressively, we're gonna have a roll off, like straight up. Like who gonna go first? I'm gonna smash this matchup. But he didn't. He deployed extremely defensively, and it caught me by surprise. Like going into this matchup, I knew if we're gonna play a stretch out game that we trade units, that we position ourselves, me having so much more shooting, and me having some units that are more of a glass cannon, but at the same time, I had a lot of small crap trash units that I can put on objectives, do missions. Like I don't need to overextend my expensive units to do stuff. And he have none of that. Like he had his cheap scarabs, blobs, but they are still like 135 points each. And I can do what they did, like in like not everything, like I cannot do everything like this big unit does, but I can do some things, like for example, jumping on an objective, pushing Veil of Darkness, or like move blocking a little bit something. Because actually in this game he had fly almost everywhere or similar ability on crates, but I can do stuff without exposing myself. And if we get a drawn out game, my firepower will just crush him. And of course, that's a lot of wounds to chew through. That's a lot of very, very fast units to like look for and like watch out for. But if I can get my destroyer blobs into positions on this table, basically, just because it's very important. On this table, if we stay in our deployment zone in like 1/4, we are basically safe. Like there's nothing that bad can happen if you are staying inside, like near your home objective. And if you just come out either way to like adjacent quarters, if you go there to catch an objective, you're gonna be in the open and you can shoot at your opponent if he does that. Yeah. And I got a lot of more shooting. So I when I see the table, because I was not choosing myself a table, our captain, Pumba, Mason, like Tafus, Mason, like our pairings team were choosing the tables. So we didn't look only about how the defender will play on which table. They will look on a team as a whole and took tables. So we got as many good tables in the team, not like one guy will have a good table because he choose good table for himself, and then we have 2 matchups on a bad table. Yeah, so on this table, if I can push 2 of my destroyer units on a good position, like to the sides of the, like they're 4 quarters into the no man's land quarters and just build a defense around those destroyer units. To the course of the game, I will outrate my opponent, and in his list was basically a wave of canoptic units, and I needed to take this wave, survive it, maybe move back a little bit, and using my shooting and my more higher damage dealing units, push him back, and in the end of the game score above the draw. And if I do that and he played good, I should have a small win, not a big one, because it's Necron mirror. If none of us make any mistakes, I probably would have, it's hard to say. We didn't play that game because one very, very special thing happened. But if we play that as intended is a bad word. As planned, I should get a small win, not a big one, a small one.
So it was looking good at the very beginning.
Yeah, I screened myself from Veil of Darkness. At least I think I did, and I remember that because I still have nightmares about that game. Big shout out to to this day. Big shout out to Liam. He's an excellent player, and that game was a lot of fun. And I think this game was worthy of the finals. Even the dice, there was not a single moment when something died. There's 20 dice more to roll to save. So many times something died on the last dice roll.
Yeah.
And it was very tense, very close. I mean, it wasn't very close in that sense of the score, but it was very tense, and the rolls were very, very close together. And I do not think one of us get a huge advantage because of the rolls. It was very tight game for some reasons. And I turn one, I got turn one, and I I wanted to go first, but after me going first and looking at the table, what happened and how much I can shoot and what I can shoot, so basically I can shoot some scarabs, I was thinking well, if he deployed defensively like he did, I don't really want to go first because I need to expose my units first, and I can screen out his Veil of Darkness with just pre-game moves for the most part if I play my Destroyer blobs pretty defensively. So the plan was I put my 2 big Destroyer units in the position that if he get on any objective or he try pushing one of my side objectives, but on my side of the board, I'm gonna shoot him. And rest of the army was making sure he will not shoot my destroyers with his destroyers. That's one thing that I was trying to make sure. And second thing was, if his Scarab's wave hits me, I will have every single attack I could get to kill it as quickly as I can, because I played that list and I know 27 Scarabs look terrible for your opponent, how you kill that. But when you put your army to work, it's doable. You can do it if you prepare for that. And basically I put those 2 big destroyer blobs in very good positions, and it feels like after my turn 1 I make some charges with my small 3-man Scorpex destroyers, because I went first and I wanted to slow down his Scarabs a little bit, so I tagged one of his Scarabs units. Looking back at it, I should tag 2 of his units, but I didn't, but it was okay still. And I used my Chronomancer Arcana to slow another unit of his Scarabs, so he cannot as easily push as deep into my deployment as he would like to. And I think that worked out well, and I screen out as well as I could. And we have that one small WTC ruin in middle. And I see that I actually asked him, and that were my words, how many destroyers you can fit on this side of the ruin. And on this side of the ruin was range and line of sight to one of my destroyer units. And the answer was, like, I asked him like 2 or 3. He said, yeah, like 2 or 3. Then I fucked up my pile-in, so he could put one more there, but that was still okay. Like 4 destroyers shooting at my 7-man destroyer unit is okay, because if he does that, I can kill his destroyer unit, and then we have 1.5 destroyer unit against no destroyer units, and I could like that would be advantage for me if he just.
It could have been huge, yeah.
Yeah, it could have been huge, and what I was seeing that he can put like 2 or 3 after I fucked up one of my pile-ins 4 destroyers, and I was like, okay, it's okay if he teleports. Like, if you're playing on such a high level, and I think it was a very, 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 very high level game, one of the hardest I've played. You don't really want your opponent, like, you don't want to stop your opponent from making mistakes. And if he teleported to shoot with only 4 of his destroyers, there was a really, really good chance that would have ended extremely bad for him, and I didn't want to stop it. Yeah, and I was like sacrificing about 170, 180 points of my list just to make sure my destroyers are safe and in good position for the turn 2, when I gonna just shoot everything that come out of his deployment zone and deal as much damage as I could. And then the turn 1 for Liam happens. And I didn't know that you can do it in WTC, because none of the sparring partners I play, and no one, like, I play a lot of TTS, I don't play a lot of in real life. And even in real life, when we play in Poland, no one uses the small ruin, because like we were thinking that is forbidden to shoot from outside of the ruin. Like, if you are on the side when the windows are, you cannot for any reason shoot on the other side because of obscuring. And you cannot do it if you are a vehicle and like stuff like that. But turns out, if you are breachable, you can put your bases into the windows and shoot through them. When this happened, I called the judge. One judge came, said, yes, Liam can do it. Then the second judge came, yes, Leon can do it. And at this point, you don't really gonna argue with
question.
Judge. Yeah, like, well, so the game go on, and Liam shoot his destroyers into my destroyers, and it was terrible feeling there. Like, I sacrificed about 200 of points just to make sure this 300 point destroyer unit gonna be safe. And then I look, and it wasn't. And also, like, he deal 23 wounds out of 22. And if you know the Necrons, if one survives and 1 wound, like 2 or 3 gonna come back. And you are still in the game. And it was very hard to look, and I felt extremely bad at that moment when he shot.
Yeah, no wonder. It's like it's seriously like a back-breaking moment during a game.
Yeah.
And at that level, so to add insult to injury.
Yes, like, we playing for the first place.
Yeah.
I have make a checkmate, and he just do a reverse, like he reverse the situation with that.
Yeah. So, but you didn't break, right? You didn't break. You actually managed to pull off quite a good score at the end.
Yeah, like, for a second, I was really, really shocked that this happened. But after that, I was thinking, okay, I'm part of the team. I can still get some points from this game. And I think I rallied as much strength and like brain power I could. And after that, played one of the best games I played in my life. Maybe not the best one, but pretty close up there. And in the end, the game ended 14-6 to Liam. Like, congratulations. Like, he played really good. I don't have like anything to like. He used every single of his movement as I would do playing his list, and I did that because I was playing his list, but without Silent King like 1 year ago. And I was like seeing the stuff he did was exactly the stuff I did, and it was perfect. Like he played really well.
So for you, that game was, as we say in Poland, it was literally sculpting in shit. You were like in such a bad position, and then you had to crawl your way back into the game, and you did, and that's great.
Yeah, and like one thing I just want to mention, or maybe two things. At the end of the game, the second unit of destroyers have a kill count of like 4 scarabs, 10 raids, and his destroyer unit. Like
MVP.
MVP. Like I was trying my best to keep it safe and just shoot every turn, and I had the same plan on the second flank. But as we knew, it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And
it could have been wonderful.
Yeah, it could have been wonderful. And at the end of the game, we both ran out of models almost completely. I had like 1 unit of destroyers, my cryptex, and like 1 unit of bikes. And Liam have a Silent King, his Canoptech Spider, and a barge that he rolled all the 4 up he could, and was really lucky because like almost whole unit of destroyers shoot his barge, and he just like that, like it doesn't matter in this game, but he still like cherry on top make all those far up saves, and I think we both laugh about that a little bit. And we also laugh about his Silent King killing my Silent King, and that he's the better king, of course. It was a fun game, a very good game. Like, and from the start, I think we played as high level gentleman play as we could get, and like it could be easy for me to say that if I was in his position, I would have told myself, like my opponent, that I can do it. But it's so easy to judge if you are not there and you are not playing, like you're playing the finals, and if you fucked up, your team gonna lose, and you will like have this memory that you could have done it all the game, and it's easy to make a statement that I would do it if you not there.
Yeah, if you're not there, absolutely.
Yeah, and like one thing more, like from the start, I think we both were looking for a very good game. Like one of his first turns, Liam was using dice that have a symbol on one. And I said, Liam, hide this dice because if the judges comes, you may get some penalties.
Right.
Okay, he hid it, no worries. Like he didn't do it on purpose, of course. And like when I was doing some moves and I fucked up a little bit, and after that I was like, Liam, I know it's your turn, but I forgot to make a pile-in. Could I do it? And he was like, no worries, mate, you can do it. And that game, like except that one gray moment that I don't hold against Liam, because as I said, it's easy to say that I would have done it if you are not there, was just the top level gentleman play, very high skill game, and I'm happy I played it.
Yeah, so like I said in the when Liam was summarizing this game in the previous episode, and you said it already this episode, that was a game worthy of a final. And again, in a final of any tournament, you would expect that if you have like two high skill teams or two high skill players, that the score is not going to be very impressive, right? It's going to be like 1-0, 2-0, or 2-1, something like that, because the skill levels between players shouldn't be different. And I think you could tell that here. You could, listening to Liam, what I make out of it was like a very even game, and it was just down to like one or two tiny mistakes that either side could have made. So again, I think, for you not being a seasoned international tournament player, you did stellar. Really, that was exceptional play. So kudos to you, Meister, because it's great, mainly to you, that we've taken that second spot, I think, with all the points that you have scored. So
no,
yeah.
It was team effort. Like, I get some easy pairings there, and like it was team effort. Like, some of our players, like Vishnya, took games for the team. Like, he was thrown under the bus, and he did his job getting his points. I get my job playing one of the strongest armies and just doing what I could to get my scores as high as I can get. And I think, like, if you look at who in our team score what points, it doesn't tell anything. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we played as a team. If we won, we would win as a team. If we lose, we lose as a team. I still have nightmares about that game, because I have that feeling. If I didn't fuck up, there was a chance I could have made the difference. But I think in every loss, and especially in loss, there is a lesson. And next year we're gonna get you Australia, and I'm hoping we're gonna meet on the finals. And this
top
time,
table.
Yeah, top table again, because guys from Australia really deserve that place. Like, I have nothing against them. If not in Poland, at least Australia got the first place. And like, I think me and Pumba and some of the other guys maybe in our team was like, if we don't get first place, these guys put so much effort, so much time, and so much money actually.
And thought into their list.
And thought, like, everything, whole package, that if we don't win it, at least like it's good that Australia done it, not someone else. Like, not to take from other teams, there was a lot of teams that prepared as hard or like similar like they did, or our team did. But I think, like, if we would choose a team that gonna win first place, and that cannot be Poland, I think I would choose Australia.
Yeah, they definitely deserve to take the cake.
Yeah,
so good for them. Right. Okay, so that was it. That was the tournament. What are your final thoughts after the event? Like, I mean, you spoke about gentleman play. I think that this sort of breaks the stereotype, especially in Poland, that competitive play has to be about tryhards and whack players, win at all costs and so on. You just given an account of something completely opposite. So that's great. But anything else? Any other thoughts about the event? Anything that maybe could encourage our listeners to try and go to the event as mercenaries or something? Is that a good experience to go to that tournament?
Why as a mercenaries? Like, if someone is better than me, he should take my place in Team Poland. Like,
yeah, but I'm even talking about international teams. I'm saying anyone.
Okay, so it was great fun. It felt like the best place to be if you are the 40k player on a planet, for me. I really like competitive play, and if you know me, I really like games to be on very high gentleman play level. Maybe because I'm a little bit soft. Like, I actually have a talk with one of the like captains selection, I don't know, like the people that would choosing the Polish team. that sometimes I play against myself because I help my opponent so much. And I think you need to have a nice balance of that. Like, you don't help your opponent, but you give him the information so he can make like decision.
Calls.
Yeah. And I think like it was that. It was like, even if in the Liam game against his Necrons, I actually asked him the wrong question when I was referring to his destroyer unit, how many can shoot me. Like, I didn't ask how many can shoot me. I asked how many can fit on the side of the ruin. And I should have clarified that.
Yeah.
And other than this little gray point, I think all of the games were really nice. I have met excellent people, very nice people. Big shout out to one of the guys that I met at. So the summary is here, and now I just want to like give a shout out to some of the people.
Absolutely.
May I do
Go
it?
ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
of course. Feel free. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So I want to make one shout out to a guy that I don't remember because I don't remember names. But I met him on Alpine Cup, the other tournament. I was going abroad. And I think after that tournament, he was very excited. Like, we have a really nice talk, and he was following me getting on your Contact Lost podcast. And he was, I think, excited to meet me there. And I was really excited to meet him there. And I want to just make a shout out to this guy. I will, next time when I'm here, I'm gonna tell his name because I will find it somewhere.
But was he on the national team?
Yeah, he was. He was.
Which
I
one?
think he was Denmark, or like, I don't remember. Switzerland? I don't remember. I think Switzerland.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, very cool guy. And I was going to make one more shout out, but I don't remember. So sorry.
Yeah, it happens when you know all the thoughts flow through your mind. I have the same, so don't worry.
Yeah. It was like, in summary, it was great. I was thinking I'm not gonna go next year because how much effort, time, and money, and like how much heart you need to give it, sacrifice you need to make to go there and to perform on a decent enough level that I'm not gonna feel bad about myself, not like being the best I could to represent Team Poland and Poland as a whole, like our community. But after that loss in the last game, I have a statement to make, and I need to go next year. And I'm actually happy that like we went second. I'm not happy about that, but like on the flip side, it gives me a lot of motivation to go there again. And I think it's gonna be great adventure once more. If I make it, because like, as I said, if someone is better than me, then he should go. Like, that's the idea. Like, we want to have as good team as a Poland, and we always strive to get first place. And I think our whole community, like whole competitive community, tries to get as strong Team Poland as we can get.
Yeah. I mean, you still have something to prove, so I understand why you want to go next year. We'll see what happens, because, you know, for all I know, it could be a completely different game in a year's time. I don't know if we will see new factions in the game, new addition to the game. God only knows. I don't know if GW even knows what's going to happen in a year's time. But fingers crossed that, you know, you get to make the team and that you get to represent us again, because it was really exciting to watch you play. It was really exciting to watch our national team play. And yeah, I think this basically wraps it up. So unless there is anything else that you want to let us know about, I think I'll wrap the episode. So Gyto, it has been, go on, sorry.
Nothing. Like, it took more than we expected.
Than we
I mean,
planned anyway.
yeah, than we
Mhm.
planned. Yeah, expected maybe not because I talk a lot, but yeah, as we planned. Yeah,
But it's all good content, so that's fine.
I
So
hope
listen,
so. I hope so.
yeah, absolutely. So listen, I thanks again for joining. Thanks again for sharing about all this with us. I wish you all the best. And to our listeners, again, if you like what we do, please make sure to leave a comment, subscribe, or leave a like because it really helps us grow. Leave a positive review if you can on the podcasting media because again, this helps us to reach new audiences and really like that. We are going to continue with the series about the WTC